we got a couple of guys with some length. Giles and Chris, obviously, God gave them appendages that are going to help them do it. But like, even if I'm not mistaken, I think Derek has one this year, and that's just because he hits it up at the right time. George certainly has a great timing for it.
Welcome to Only Weird Games.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
If the entire Chiefs defense has the career year that Steve Spagnuolo has been having, both on the field and at the podium, then the Chiefs will never lose again. It's Only Weird Games. Joshua Brisco, Seth Keysor, Nate Taylor. Nate, you were there for pressers today.
Yes.
Did that sequence spark anything amongst the assembled media? I was listening live back from the radio station.
Yeah, there's a visual element too of
There is.
Arms,
a lot of arms
everywhere. We get into the red zone. Get those hands up. Get those hands up. I guess Derek Nottie has one.
He has one.
That's good.
Yep.
Imagine how much better it would be for him as a football player if he had two arms instead of one. God, he's had a decent year so far.
He's had a great year.
Imagine how good he'd have been if he had two arms. That's right, Chris Palmer, Seth's back. The only important news of the day.
Had you heard that clip yet, Seth? Was that the first time for you?
I had not heard it. The day job is slowly trying to kill both my soul and my physical body simultaneously, which is nice if it's simultaneous.
What would you say God gifted you with appendage-wise? He was talking about batting down passes, everybody. Get your mind out of the gutter.
I was going to show you. Like, I was just thinking. And we all know that the appendage that I have that everyone has noticed the most is this one. And
that's a good point. I guess technically an appendage.
Yeah, I've been gifted with the Dilophosaurus wings that somehow I didn't get until I was about 30, 31. Strangest thing. I'm not sure what happened there, but it's hard to say. A man changes, as the late great Norm Macdonald once said.
That certainly seems to be the case.
No, he said a man grows.
Well,
it was in response to him.
We are so back. We are so back. We missed you, Seth. In that lovely drive back north to your natural habitat.
Yeah. Hey, I tried to make my presence known in the comments.
Yes.
Yeah, great timing for that little road trip.
Which we appreciate it because it's not every day or every episode where you're just plopped in with some news that I know we're going to discuss later and other obviously developments. But yeah, the Chiefs are averaging, and I know this still might surprise people, but the Chiefs defense is averaging 14 points per game. If you exclude the Kadarius Toney pick six that somehow gets applied to the defense, even though they were never on the field. It's one of those. It's really why we have DVOA and why we have certain analytics in terms of success rate and obviously drives worth points and drives where you don't give up points. But in the traditional number sense, they're averaging 14 points a game. And Steve Spagnuolo may have raised his arms 14 times today to demonstrate their usage of the drills.
Various appendages.
The drills. Get to the long arm, and if that doesn't work, just raise it up a few inches and hope the ball gets there.
Sure.
Yeah, this is a great show, but a terrible audio podcast at this point. I think is what I just realized.
I am glad he addressed that, by the way, because I have been fighting a battle for years because it's only in the last year that people have finally, the vast majority of Chiefs Kingdom has finally accepted that Chris Jones is an elite, basically one-of-a-kind pass rusher. If you guys recall, the years prior to that were frustrating ones for me.
But what does he do against the run, Seth?
Oh my
goodness. He takes plays down, Seth. He takes plays off, Seth. He doesn't show up in the postseason, Seth.
Now, does Chris Jones jog out some plays that he could sprint out 100%? Am I glad he does that? Yes. Because for me, it's like, oh, they ran a wide receiver screen to the other side of the field. The odds of him being involved in that play again are 0.1 0.0001%. The odds of him needing to rush the passer the next play, and I want him as fresh as possible, 99%. So as long as he's judicious about it. But the thing that drove me nuts, because people used to say this about him all the time, when they'd say, oh, he takes all these plays off, almost every time someone sent me a clip of that, it was because he was doubled or blocked well and was looking to swat the ball.
Right.
And because Jones is incredibly sharp, I mean, he's so good at this, he doesn't get his hands up right away because you don't want the quarterback to see what you're doing. He watches and waits and swats. And hearing Spagnuolo talk about that, Adam Sheehan with a great comment. Not everyone can be Furious George. Not everyone can be Furious George, and that works two ways now. George Karlaftis never stops moving. I don't know what water polo's like, but it gives you, apparently you just never stop running in water. So
that seems kind of true to my limited, but apparently better than your understanding of water polo.
Keep those legs moving.
Yeah. So for him, I kind of wonder if George Karlaftis all day when he's running around on a football field is like, man, running in non-water is so easy. I don't know why these guys are so tired. Just like you know what I mean? It's just like, man, why are you guys so tired? This isn't even water. Like, this is just grass. It's so easy. But he also is unbelievable at swatting the football. And between him and Jones and Omenihu, those guys have appendages for days. I've never seen appendages like this.
And I just want
You've
to
seen at least one from the combine.
I do have unusually long arms for a guy my height.
Anyway.
Seth will reach up and smack you in the face if you talk bad about him. He'll reach. He'll get there.
I'll reach way up. Maybe get a step stool. It's hard to say.
I just want to remind the audience and our viewers that Chris Jones is 6'6", and he also plays in the interior. He's an alien, guys. He
wins on bull rushes when he's like 4 inches taller than the other dude. It's the weirdest thing. He's like reaching down. I have leverage from above, which just is different than everything we've been taught about low man wins. It's like, no, not every time.
And one of the best comments today from Steve Spagnuolo, as I can demonstrate for our visual audience, is, guys, the reason why we move Chris around is because, when he's inside, like if you knew he was playing the right tackle on every snap, they'd get 4 hands on him. 4. He only showed us his 2. And I said, I love the gesture, coach. I got it. Didn't need it, but I just love.
Sometimes he accidentally starts teaching in a press conference, and it's the best. It's like doing technique in a presser.
He's like, because sometimes they want to get 4 hands on him, immediately, and sometimes we can use that to our advantage. But that's the main reason why we move him around, so he does get 4 hands to him at all times.
Every time Nate has said that, if you are just listening later, he has thrust out his 2 hands with enough force to knock any human being on the planet over. It's just it's explosive.
Or if you're Creed Humphrey, it's just snap and you stop. I'm gonna stop you right there. Let me move you right here. Next play. Let me shotgun and you're done.
And you'll just stay right. and just stay right there.
You just described 99.9% of Creed Humphreys and Joe Toney's pass pro reps. They are just done. Just at
at least Joe Toney gets both hands. He's right here. He's right here.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yeah. No, his feet, we can't see your feet right now, Nate, but I assume they are perfectly positioned while you're talking about Joe Toney.
So Pat's saying wide 80, right? Yellow, maybe a little indicator on who the mic is. I guess Kelce from the slot is calling cover 0. Hike, and you're done.
Kelce from the slot.
Go ahead.
That's so great that you brought that up. Josh, did you see that?
No, I don't think, not the cover 0. I saw some of the mic'd up stuff, but I don't think I saw the cover 0. I must have missed the full cut.
So with the full thing of him mic'd up, there were 2 incredible moments in that, both of which I think are really, really interesting. I'm now a big fan of whoever that rookie defensive tackle was.
Yeah, I forgot his name. I was a big fan for long enough to forget his name.
Yeah. Well, a man grows. And and so Kelce is lined up in the slot. And he yells out cover 0 before the snap. And they ran cover 0. And afterwards, the slot corner goes, how'd you know that was cover 0? And Kelsey's like, Been doing this a long time, man.
Boys, been doing this a long time. He is Indiana Jones. That is the most Indiana Jones line. Where it's just like, how'd you know that it was gonna chop your head off if you didn't kneel before God? Trying to get to the to the what was it again? To the Grail, to the Holy Grail. Kids, I've been doing this a long time.
I've been doing this a long time.
Rob Gronkowski drank from the wrong cup and then aged more rapidly. And Kelce continues to do this.
You see that? You see that guy's head rolling? Yeah, been doing this a long time.
That Travis Kelce had a lot of dad energy moments in this game.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember. I don't think you guys talked about Great Show Monday, by the way. But seriously, him catching that long
Kelce saying Kelce belongs in a museum.
Belongs in a museum. Like, of all the things to get that passionate about, risking your life, like all the things Indiana Jones, it's like, so we can sit in a museum. Like, that's the hill we're dying on here, literally.
You're on a ship.
Yeah,
in like the most greatest like rainstorm I've ever seen in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Or the Mediterranean.
Because it belongs in a museum.
Because it belongs.
Like, did you see the way those grad students were looking at you while you taught, Indy? You want to be out here instead? That's what you're doing now.
What we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, man, in real life, Indy would have retired at age like 31 and just been like, well, I'm here to teach you all today. Yes, I know. Thank you. And it would have had the easiest life. Now, would the Nazis have gotten the Holy Grail? Well, no, actually, we can't go down that road because he actually doesn't change the movie, and that's a whole thing we can't really talk about.
You cannot cross the seal.
You cannot.
He told us this. What you doing, girl?
So,
Wait, is there like an Indiana Jones conspiracy? I don't know. You just alluded to something and then brushed it off so fast that I'm so interested.
It's from the Big Bang Theory.
I'm less interested.
I think it's on Reddit and stuff. Okay. The idea is, well, Nate, you go ahead. Have you heard it?
If you don't cross the seal, I can have my cake and eat it too. You're the cake. Okay. The cake. I am emotionally involved with someone on the wrong side of history, but baby, don't cross the seal. What you doing?
On the wrong side of history.
What you doing? But you're so pretty and so
wrong
nice.
Side of history is doing a lot of work there. It's like
sounds like it.
You know who's on the wrong side of history? Now. The Nazis.
Pretty wrong.
No, so here's the theory: is that Indiana Jones is completely irrelevant to the Holy Grail, to the film, because no matter what, the Nazis would have eventually gotten the Holy Grail, opened it, and all died.
Correct.
And so, and anyway.
So there's like a theological little plot twist of like it's actually about the futility of man, and despite how hard you go for trying, that ultimately the holy power is going to find justice on its own. Is that the idea, Seth?
Man, you are.
I have no idea. I hadn't really given it any thought, but I'm kind of hungry, so I'm not really like. I'm not. I haven't thought too far in depth. I didn't think that the creator of the Holy Grail was a Calvinist, but it's hard to say. Like it's like the futility, and so Travis Kelce. On that long touchdown pass that would have, let me just say, 2 years ago, maybe even last year, basically any other time before this year, Travis Kelce's career, that's 6.
Maybe just before his knee hyperextended the last practice before the season began.
And it was just so funny because he's got good speed and the safety had an angle, but like it was the funniest thing watching him close, and you could tell. So you guys gave a shout out to our good friend Clint, hosted us for a wonderful time playing ball. We had a lot of fun. You know what? I actually was better off than I thought I would be, playing in flip-flops on concrete like some kind of moron.
I meant pride-wise.
I got my bucket. That's all I needed. Got my bucket.
What?
Well, when you're going up to 5, I scored a third of our team's points. So, anyway,
to 5, yes. Uh-huh.
Yes.
I
don't know why these details are like, so important. So the interesting thing to me, what Travis Kelce did, he went full Clint, who's smarter and better than all of us, because he watched us play and immediately was like, nope, I'm an adult. No, thank you. I want to be able to move the rest of the week. When Travis Kelce's running downfield and you can see him like, I could cut back on that safety. I could hurdle that safety. I could stiff arm that safety.
I could spin that guy into the cycle.
I should just really fall down on that safety and really hurt him a little. because it's just like, and it was just such a funny thing to me because I was just thinking like how different Kelce is now. If you go back and watch his first healthy season, he was a thunderbolt. When he was like, it was like a 6'6", 6'5" version of Rashee Rice when he get the ball in his hands, just take off. You remember, I mean, he took like an 80-yard wide receiver screen to the house against Denver. Now he's like, guys, I've been doing this a while. He like basically made a deal with that safety. I'm gonna let you tackle me, and I'm gonna lean on you, but let's not get too crazy with the old knees and ankles, bud. And I thought it was beautiful because whomst among us.
Was that the end of your sentence? Just whomst among us?
Well,
Seth's
yeah,
reading the chat. Seth's
I'm
reading the
reading
chat
the
again.
private chat. You
Yeah.
know, why are you guys so mean to me? I don't understand. I missed one time. Man.
It's not that we're being mean to you. It's that chat you're reading for the first time was from 14 minutes ago.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
5
We're
minutes
fine.
is not 14 minutes.
We're fine. It's just 15 podcast minutes when we've got a little win. It's okay, Seth. I'm glad we got to talk about Travis Kelce. I'm glad we got to have a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to relive the fact that I do still currently have like open wounds on the inside of my foot from the shoes I was wearing while playing basketball poorly. So really falling apart for all three of us. But the Chiefs, though, they're just still coming together. We'll circle back through a few things you guys both wrote about Charles Omenihu, that this might ultimately just lead us right into that conversation as well. But Seth, since we did not have you on Monday, you had written about Omenihu. Again, we'll come back around. But most recently, your fascination with Thanos continues. First, it was the back tattoo, and now it's another reference to him in the Chief in the North newsletter. Tell me why the Chiefs remind you of Angry Grimace.
Well, they are, and shout out to Aaron Schatz, formerly of Football Outsiders.
Shots.
Oh, is it? How will I never pronounce the name correctly? Schatz. Shots.
I think he goes out of his way to make sure that one's Shots, not the one that you said.
Sorry, Aaron. Unbelievable provider of content.
Incredible work. Nice fella.
Everyone should follow everything he does. So he tweeted out, or reported, or he zeeted, I don't know. Or is it zotted? It's hard to say. Back on the 24th, that Kansas City, they're the first team to be top 5 in all 3 phases as of week 7 since the 1999 Rams. So that means all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, and that's in DVOA. DVOA, for lack of a better way of explaining it, how good are you relative to the rest of the NFL at moving the ball in a way that makes you more likely to score? Or stopping the other team from moving the ball in a way that's more likely to score. And that's better than just pure yards, because 5 yards on 3rd and 5 is very different than 5 yards on 3rd and 20.
Or 1st and 20, yes.
Yep. And so it's a great stat. Every stat has limitations, but this is one of the better ones in terms of an entire team. And so they are number 4 on offense, which is hilarious with all the hand-wringing we've done. Now, some of that is messed with by the ridiculous performance against the Bears, but they've been moving the ball well all season. And that's one reason that DVOA is a little less, it's a little better at predicting things than the final score of a game. Because that final score of the game obviously dictates who won the game, but it's not necessarily as predictive because weird bad luck or weird red zone snaps, that sort of thing, that can really affect the final score. Whereas if you're consistently moving the ball well, like the Chiefs were against the Broncos, they only scored 19. They were moving the ball all over the field. They could have scored 35. And so DVOA kind of shows that, because usually if you move the ball well all year, red zone stuff is a lot more noisy than other things. Nate, the best hooper I've ever seen in person. Jordan.
That's a $2 super chat from Jordan.
Boom.
Who played on the winning team.
Super chat makes it true.
He'll get $4 for his return of services.
that's just smart money right there.
True.
So they are, like, the idea is here that they are balanced perfectly in that they've got a really good offense, really good defense, and a good special teams. And I really liked that stat came out right after Chiefs Chargers. And so what I wrote about is how in Chiefs Chargers, you could see how that plays out in real time. You know, the defense struggles to open up. You should be down. I mean, the Chargers scored 17 points in 3 consecutive drives. It's like 5.67 points per drive, which would be like double what led the NFL last year. Normally, if that happens, you're in trouble. The Chiefs weren't. It was a tie game because the offense was playing great. Then the offense starts sputtering, and the defense is like, we have decided you are done scoring points. And we are going to hit Justin Herbert repeatedly and do all sorts of terrible things. And that kind of balance, I don't know if you guys saw it. I got to use a marriage analogy.
Oh, I saw it.
Oh, it was.
Go ahead.
It was so wholesome. I got to just make sure I read it.
Oh, good. Hey, everybody! If you're new to the show, this is Seth's favorite segment. Seth reads something Seth wrote.
Fantastic.
Man, that was my name a lot. That was weird.
Fantastic.
Think of this in terms. Oh, excuse me. Let me.
I'll have a drink. Go ahead. Cough it out.
Think of this in terms of a good marriage. I haven't used this space to talk about my wife Jazz much, so I'll take advantage here. Over the course of the last 16 years, she and I have both gone through stretches where we've struggled to hold up our end. Maybe it's a tough time. Maybe one of us is sick. Whatever the case may be. Maybe she's, you know what? I was going to say something that I didn't write there, and I reeled it back in.
Good job. Good job.
When I'm struggling, and this is true, guys. When I'm struggling, Jazz is always able to pick up the slack and carry us for a while until I'm back in the full swing of things, and vice versa. It's usually the first one, though. By filling in for each other's weak spots, we're significantly stronger than we would be otherwise. The Chiefs are like a good marriage, and that is just the most wholesome story in the NFL right now.
To add to this lovely display of wholesome marriage counselor analogies about his own wife, who somehow is still here among us. Let me ask a question for both of you fellas, because I just looked it up to further illustrate Seth's eloquent writing. When was the last time the Chiefs trailed in a game?
I mean, they lost to the Lions, so in week 1.
I think that might actually. They haven't trailed by very much for sure.
I actually don't know.
Does
I'm gonna say week 1.
I'm going to let the comments have another couple of seconds. But
did the Jags get up on them?
Who was the last team to lead the Chiefs in a game this season?
The Jets seem like a good guess.
Nope, the Jets were not the team to do it.
Before that?
I think it was pre-Jets then.
There you go, Thomas.
Okay,
Thomas Lester with the answer. It was the Minnesota Vikings who were up 13-10. You know what the Chiefs did? They scored a field goal at the half.
And so it's been 2.5 games.
So the lead lasted all of a minute and 31 seconds. With all of that being said, here's another thing. The last time the Chiefs also trailed by 3 points was to the Jaguars early in the first half of that game. And so the question really becomes, when is the last time the Chiefs trailed by more than a field goal this season?
I don't even remember the scoring path of the Lions game, if I'm being honest.
It was in the first quarter of the first game of the season. That is the only time this entire season through 7 games where the Chiefs have trailed by more than a field goal. It is one of the most it's one of the most awe-striking sort of thoughts to have, even though we've lived every second of the season so far.
Right.
But I think that's more of a reflection of the defense and of the special teams not being an unmitigated disaster early in the year. So it's not because a field goal kicker, it's not because Harrison Butker struggled. It's not because Tommy Townsend outkicked his coverage or, botched a punt. Yes, there have been fake punts that have been successful, which, by the way, led to the first touchdown in the first quarter of the first game of the season. But it's a reflection, I think, mostly of the defense and the special teams, that this team just has not trailed double digits all season. Even though Patrick Mahomes is the most greatest modern quarterback in NFL history, when down 2 scores. He hasn't been down 2 scores all year. Like, really think about that. It is wild. So if you want to make the arguments now, if you want to start making the arguments that this is the Chiefs' best team collectively since the Patrick Mahomes era, and I will still argue that no one remembers the 2020 team because of how it ended. But the 2020 team was playing with people, kind of like mostly an NBA team. But we're not going to talk about the NBA. All I'm trying to say is the Chiefs have not trailed by 2 scores all season. They have played 7 games. That is more than a third of the season.
That is unbelievable. That is a fantastic stat. I want to talk about Omenihu, but I think if we talk about Justin Ross right now, we can talk about what's the latest there for a few minutes, and then we'll take our next little timeout, and then we can start looking ahead even more to Chiefs Broncos and Omenihu and all of that. But Seth, in an incredible act of poor timing, the lawyer, was not with us on Monday as all of that was breaking. And we have plenty of new things that have now come out since then, both in the charges themselves actually changing from what was initially put out there by the Johnson County Sheriff's Department. And also we have an update on how the Chiefs have handled it. From the Chiefs side of things, been practicing. Wednesday was the first day of practice. Andy Reid said he'd be out there, and he was. And he's out there again today. And there's no reason in my mind to believe that he wouldn't play on Sunday with him practicing all week. But I've got one frustration with how this has been handled. But Nate, I want to make sure you get us the remaining important facts. Seth, you can give us kind of your whole view as lawyer man, and then we can return to football momentarily. But Nate, what have you seen? What have you heard being out there about Justin Ross?
So it was charged down to a misdemeanor. So comparison that is similar to what Willie Gay went through in 2021, January, I believe, if that's correct. Because he got suspended for the 2022 season. So
that suspension didn't come down until into that season.
Yes, until into that season. So it's a misdemeanor where we thought the damage to the personal belongings was a lot higher than it was. It's actually a lot lesser, kind of in that same, again, ballpark area of what Willie Gay went through. He obviously had a hearing. He declined to comment about it when asked after leaving. A woman who at one point was a significant other got her belongings out of the apartment. We are led to presume are not dating anymore. He has practiced as a full participant yesterday and today. The Chiefs, like a decent amount of teams, want to say that we are aware of the situation and we're going to let the legal process play out. And, Justin Ross's next court appearance, I believe, is in early December. So that'll be the next sort of update. So from now until December, unless something unforeseen information-wise gets uncovered or is different from what they were told and what the police report and the hearing suggest, he's going to be on the team this season unless something changes. Seth, from your vantage point as an attorney,
sure,
your thoughts and where did I miss the particulars in all of this?
One particular that I think would be really important to differentiate this from Willie Gay's situation is that Kansas is Kansas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
In a municipality in Kansas.
Yep.
So Kansas has the ability to, they do things a little bit differently than how we do it in Minnesota, rather than having a specific charge regarding domestic assault. And then we just have damage to property, which is just kind of a run-of-the-mill crime.
Its own thing, yes.
Yep. So Kansas has the ability, all these things are certain crimes, but you have the ability to attach a domestic violence tag to it, essentially. And so what happened with Willie Gay Jr., he was charged only with destruction of property, but it was tagged as a domestic incident because it occurred within the home. There's kind of there's good reasons for that, because there's a difference between, damaging property out in public because you're being a hooligan and damaging property, like let's say you and I are walking through the hallway of some business and I punch the wall because I'm angry. Probably scary, certainly, but that's very different than punching a wall when you're in the middle of an argument with your significant other or around your kids. So there's a reason they can tag it with DV. Here's why I think there's a really important distinction to add here. Unlike Willie Gay Jr., who was charged with damage to property with a domestic violence tag, Justin Ross is charged with, if I've read it correctly, domestic battery. Which I'm looking at the Kansas statute right now. And so domestic battery, you can have one of two things: knowingly or recklessly causing bodily harm by a family or household member against a family or household member. So a member of your household, which can be a significant other, child, family member, there's certain distinctions there. So, and what people need to understand, bodily harm in the legal process, there's bodily harm, which is just any kind of bodily harm. There's substantial bodily harm. There's great bodily harm. Sometimes for lower level type stuff, there's called demonstrable bodily harm, which means you need a bruise or something like that, right? That you can see. Bodily harm, you don't need to be able to see it. You just need to be able to feel it, right? Did you feel it when this happened? So it's that, or knowingly causing physical contact with a family member when done in a rude, insulting, or angry manner. So the difference between what he's charged with, and this is, again, I haven't read the complaint, so I want to be really careful here, because I've probably prosecuted somewhere between 500 and 750 domestic assaults, ranging from, low-level misdemeanors to first-degree felonies. Every situation is different, extremely different. And I'm comfortable saying that there's a wide variety of things that occur that I don't always know what happened. That said, prosecutors generally don't charge something out unless they think they have probable cause. And what he's alleged to have done here is different than what Gay is alleged to have done, because he's alleged to have he's alleged to have made contact, right? And so that's a different thing. So, I mean, I'm almost hesitant to give examples of how it would be different, because then people are going to think that's what I'm saying happened. But he's alleged to have actually made contact with the person. In
the call to the authorities, with not her own cell phone, because that was damaged, or part of the damages, she is, again, from a public report standpoint, she's alleging that he dragged her. Now, we don't know the details of how that dragging may have occurred and if that statement is actually true, because as far as I know, there were either two people, perhaps three, at this point of when this happened in the apartment. So, what does drag equate to? It does lend to Seth's point that this is some physical contact of some sort versus a vacuum cleaner being a vessel for you to sort of express your frustration about, a particular altercation.
Right.
Obviously, the Willie Gay situation.
Right, and it's not to say that either one of them is okay, right? You're an adult.
Neither one of them is okay.
You're an adult. Act like one. And so that's one thing that I would say to people in general.
Like, Thomas, I'm gonna get to grandma. Don't you worry.
Don't throw grown man tantrums. Like, don't act like a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. Generally speaking, no matter what it is that happened, no matter how angry it made you, you know what you can do? You can walk away and call it a day, like a grown up. So and maybe that's mean of me, but I just, we're talking about a grown man here. So anyway, that's just, so dragging, that's what would fall into bodily harm. So I'm curious what comes of it. But that's what I can provide from the legal side of things. It's a misdemeanor. Now, and misdemeanors are treated a little bit differently in every single jurisdiction.
Right. And just one other detail to add, this is similar to, at least as we know right now, this is similar to the Charles Omenihu altercation, where it was also physical. He is alleged to shove his significant other to the ground.
Right.
So again, same sort of body on body contact. And then what is, I think, is the case here that is similar is in the Charles Omenihu case, his significant other did not have any physical damage, and she did not want any medical treatment. And that appears to be the same case with this Justin Ross situation. So now you're really having to either, and again, you don't want to assume, but you're trying to fully understand it. If he is alleged to drag her, but she has no physical, if there's no physical markings, then again, how do you sort of handle both of these things we are led to be true at this point? So I know somebody asked about the commissioner's list. The reason the commissioner's list is not involved in this is we have no video. Full stop. Second, if it was video, this would be a whole different ball of wax. Second, when it comes, now this is me understanding the NFL and trying to explain to you the Chiefs' position before we get to Josh's thoughts. I honestly believe, or I'm led to believe, with enough conversations, that probably at least a third of the team, at least a third of the teams in the NFL would no longer employ Justin Ross. The Chiefs have chosen not to be one of those teams in that category. A third of the league would have released him upon learning about this. The Chiefs have chosen not to do that. With that said, Josh, where do you sort of see this not only moving forward, but obviously, again, more information than we knew at the time on Monday?
Yeah, the thing that frustrated me on Wednesday was when Andy Reid said, here's who's not practicing today, everybody else will. And there was clarification that did include Justin Ross. His statement at the front end was, we've gathered information and we're continuing to gather information, so he's going to be out there. And I think it ended up ultimately putting Patrick Mahomes in a really bad spot. And I think it ends up putting the Chiefs as a whole in a spot that they could have totally avoided. No one from the Chiefs on Chiefs letterhead or anything like that have put out a public statement. The only two people, even after pressers today, who have spoken about this with the Chiefs logo on is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. The head coach, who should speak on it, and the quarterback, who probably shouldn't have to, but in this case does. When you say we're still gathering information, that's something you can say, in real world examples, or for the phrase that has come to the, throughout public knowledge. If you say we're still gathering information, so he's on administrative leave. He's away. We are setting us at a neutral here. He's neither here nor cut. The commissioner's list is one of the things I was also thinking about. Your note, Nate, is true and sort of upsetting, because you didn't say that list isn't involved because it's not that bad. You said that list isn't involved because there's no video, which is
tell me the last time somebody was on the commissioner list that didn't involve video in a domestic violence situation. Yeah,
I don't have that example. What ends up happening then, though, that is so frustrating to me is the standard that's set is he is going to practice and he is going to play unless we find new, worse information.
Correct.
As opposed to he's going to be away from the team until we acquire enough positive information. Positive is in giant air quotes here, but less incriminating information, or at least until we have enough information to say we know the full story. The Chiefs, via Andy Reid, said we don't know exactly what happened here, so he's just going to keep playing. That was the statement. If that's not true, then there are lots of other ways the Chiefs could go ahead and make a statement that would say, we've got a bunch of details and things are not what they seem, and so he's going to be out there. But what it is instead is, again, he's out there until we learn something new, which is a little bit of a cop-out. It also meant the question to Patrick Mahomes was very different. Ultimately, Todd Lebo asks the question to Patrick Mahomes, hey, what's your message out there? What do you say to Justin? He got arrested. Now he's practicing with you today. And Mahomes went on kind of some quarterback speak that usually works of, it's a brotherhood, it's a locker room, we want to lift each other up, we're brothers in there. And in so many contexts, that's a reasonable thing to say. In this context, it didn't feel very good to hear. And it's unfortunate because what the question in a better handled world, in my opinion, would have been, the question would have been, Patrick, Justin Ross arrested earlier this week, away from the team right now. What do you tell everybody in the room? How do you stay focused getting ready for the Broncos? Or what do you tell the rest of the wide receivers who are here? And then he doesn't have to speak on Justin Ross at all. Mahomes at that point is speaking on, well, I'm focused on the guys who are here right now. Hope that gets figured out in the best way possible. But I'm really just focused on what we're working on to keep locked in. And that's something we're all aware of. That option wasn't there for him because he was going to throw passes to Justin Ross 30 minutes after answering that question.
Yeah, 45.
That to me just feels like a total blunder by the Chiefs.
Yeah, but it is consistent with what they've done in the past, and that point needs to be made based on the facts we have right now and the context that we're trying to present. Thomas Lester just doing just an amazing job. He asked, didn't they have Tyreek away, basically to Josh's point, on administrative leave? Yes, that also happened in the most turbulent offseason in franchise history. The summer of 2019. I'll never get it back. Personally, never. All right. But what you remember at that point, which I thought was very deliberate, they put out an audio conversation the week of the draft.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
What a time. 20. I will.
Well, and
I have a lot to say about the summer of 2019.
Yeah,
it was wild. But also,
a lot going on there.
There was a lot going on. There was audio, not video, but audio during the draft. And they just said, look, man, things are flaming right now. So it wasn't during the season. And I'm led to believe, given their track record, had this all happened during the season, he would have still been on the field. So you have what the Chiefs sort of hand this off to the league. That will be sort of adjudicated in the league's contest, which probably means he will be suspended next year if he's on the team or if he's on another NFL team, because obviously he's in a bit of an interesting standpoint that he wasn't a drafted player. Obviously, he's playing as an undrafted second-year player in the league. All that to be said, last thing I'll say, fellas, Justin Ross's grandma needs to be lifted to the highest of the heights based on the situation and how volatile it can get both emotionally. And what we've learned through all of this is Justin Ross's grandmother said, come with me, get your stuff. And has basically tried to be a just loving family member, trying to just, there's so many things, like, obviously I can't say a ton, but like, I just thought what Justin Ross's grandmother did was very noble, very commendable, actually loving to both people. And so she was told by the judge to not talk about this. So how much is he involved in the case? We don't know, or the incident. But I just thought from a human standpoint, his grandmother did a lot that maybe other people in a similar situation would not have done.
Seth looks confused, but I don't think that Seth can ask clarifying questions at this moment in time. So we're going to do
probably not going to be able to answer, Seth. I'll tell you after the show, but
it's an unusual thing for a judge to order a potential witness not to talk about a case. That said, judges have a lot of leeway in terms of how they handle things. They're trying to, because what a judge is concerned about, it's worth noting. A judge is concerned about ensuring that someone's civil rights and criminal rights are properly, because again, that's the criminal system. That's where people love to say innocent until proven guilty. That's in the judicial criminal system. You are alleged to have committed a crime. We want to ensure that the venue maintains that's an appropriate venue, that you can get a good jury pool from it, that wouldn't be tainted by this becoming this wild public thing. So judges are, that was interesting to me because it's very unusual.
Yes.
But it makes sense. I don't know. I personally, I've seen enough of these that I'm curious. I hope it turns out okay. These are generally not great situations. He said vaguely.
They are less than ideal.
Yeah.
And I just think Justin Ross's grandmother, despite all of this, should be commended.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it would be nice and clever to try to have us have this very serious conversation and then a little ad break and then to come back and talk about the lighthearted things. I didn't consider that I would have to say, hey, Tucker, why don't you come read a DraftKings ad? while we all get recalibrated to talk about some actual football on the other side of it. Sorry and thank you.
That's what I'm here for, Josh. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub like my Orlando Magic. And with the DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a bigger shot at basketball wins. String together multiple bets from the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Basketball's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Back to you, Josh.
Thank you, Tucker. And in a moment of self-awareness and clarity of what the segue is going to be, when we've mentioned Charles Omenihu having his 6-game suspension, it's not that he just wasn't playing football for 6 games. It's because of a situation that sounds a lot like the one that we just talked about with Justin Ross. And now we're going to talk about how great Charles Omenihu has been in his 1 game back with the Chiefs. So this segue could be studied in sports podcast classes in the future for cognitive dissonance, and I'm aware of that. With that being said, cognitive dissonance, shouted out and acknowledged. You guys have both written about Charles Omenihu. We're all very excited about what he's done in this defense. We are very excited about the Chiefs' defense altogether. Seth, why don't you go ahead and open it up, because you wrote about him, and then we're not on with us to talk about after getting to watch this new look defense on in person on Sunday.
Sure. It was fun to watch. It's always fun to watch in person because you can see the whole field. You can see plays as they develop. And the buzz in the stadium is always fun. By the way, the entire stadium saw MVS open on that touchdown.
Really?
And it's like, Pat, throw it to Quest. I mean, everyone was.
The problem is that the stadium, it was like some group was yelling 11 and some was yelling
Yeah. Mahomes could have just stopped and been like, what? But how he sees
one of them
that
was
stuff.
like, throw it to Marcus, and then Marquez looked up at the stands and just stared at them, and then resumed running his route again.
So it was fun watching live because you can really see the symbiotic relationship between pass rush and coverage, and that is such a huge thing. You know what team had a great pass rush? The 2018 Chiefs. They Justin Houston had his first big bounce back year. He was a good pass rusher that year. Mm-hmm. That was last year. Tamba Hali was pretty effective. They had effective passers, and of course Chris Jones really started to come into his own.
Don't forget the other guy. Don't forget him.
Man.
Don't
forget him.
Oh no.
Well, you can say it. Well, he played a pretty big role. No one was happy about it, but he was very involved. Great first step. Maybe a little bit aggressive with it at times.
D Ford, for the love of all things good and pure. That was the 1 year D Ford stayed healthy. They had another interior rusher that I'm forgetting right now.
Alvin Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
Alan Bailey.
Alan Bailey. Why'd I say Alvin? Jeez.
I don't know.
It's a lot of names.
So that team had a really good pass rush. They had multiple dudes and multiple really good guys. And the problem was on the back end, things were problematic. And so you can see live.
Just say his name. Hey, Jared Goff. He's 22. His name is Orlando Scandrick. Throw to him every time. And also, if he's not on the field, 49's the guy. 49.
Yeah, just finding him and just so I would just say, so when you're there live, you can see the symbiotic relationship between the two. So like George Karlaftis' sack, pretty nice move around the edge. He's showing a little more ability to corner this year, which is great. He's added a little more variety. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a dude, but he might be like a dude. You know what I mean? Like there's levels to this. Or he might be like not a guy. Like right now he's a guy. He might be like a guy. Like there's levels. And so
that little area between being a guy and being a dude is so important. It's it's such a fine line.
It's hard to say.
I think there are some incredible guys who actually don't equal being kind of a dude, and vice
Right.
versa. Sometimes you'd prefer a guy over kind of a dude.
Right. Well,
Is-
and that
is-
like
is-
depends on what you need schematically. What?
Exactly.
Is Derek Nottie a guy?
Against the pass? No.
That's
Derek
all I'm
Nottie.
asking, baby. That's all I'm asking.
This year, I think he's been a guy.
Hey,
He's
there
been
we go.
solid in run defense this year. So someone commented, Karlaftis now corners like a destroyer instead of a battleship.
Pretty funny.
Like you know,
That's pretty funny.
you know that that Colin's been like, look, man, you don't even have to be good at cornering. Can you just be a little less bad at it, and then maybe we can figure this out? So with Omenihu, with the defense, with the pass rush, 2 snaps that I would have people focus on that I think are demonstrative of the value that Omenihu brings. And we'll go actually 3 snaps. I'm sorry. So we'll go with the sack and then the forced pick late. So you got one early in the game, you got one late in the game. Those plays are mirror images of one another. Okay. And the first one, Omenihu is rushing off the left edge. Chris Jones is playing defensive tackle right inside him. Jones cuts upfield, and then you've got Omenihu looping inside. That's an intentional stunt or twist, depending on who you're talking to. I don't really care about terminology. The idea is there, you've got a guy like Jones who can win that gap outside the shoulder of the guard in a way that forces him to play upfield. And if the center's helping, the center's going to go all the way upfield to help, right? And so if you've got a guy who can penetrate well, what that means is you start to, if you're a Omenihu, you cut upfield as though you're going to test the edge. And then once you've gotten that tackle to kick slide a couple steps, you can just use that length, use those wacky wobbly appendage arms, and disengage and cut inside. And if if the first guy is a good interior rusher, and Jones is a great one, they will force a step up, and he's gonna right into your lap. That was Omenihu's sack. It was a good play by him, but a good, well-designed thing overall that required both of them to be good at what they do. Late in the game, Herbert's pick, they flipped it. Chris Jones lined up on the right defensive end. Omenihu was at defensive tackle right inside him, ran the exact same game, just this time it's Omenihu penetrating, does a great job. Jones cutting inside, does a great job. That's a really exciting sequence because it's demonstrative of the fact, and that's, I always say you only use yes, it is called a TE stunt. Thank you, Thomas. I generally tend to stay away from utilizing any kind of personality. I've heard people call it a twist, to be perfectly honest. So it just depends on what defense you're playing or who you're talking to.
Run the loop. Run the loop.
Yeah. So what I would say is when you've got 2 guys, and they've got more than 2 guys, but Omenihu is a little bit set apart, I think, from Dana and Karlaftis for a reason, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But when you've got 2 guys that can execute either side of that stunt equally well, that allows you to force teams. You can play both of them all over, and you never know when they're going to play that game because that stunt forces your guard to play things a certain way, forces your tackle to play things a certain way. It forces your center to understand, well, there might be someone looping inside. Maybe I can't help. But if you don't help, and then suddenly you just got Chris Jones coming around that outside corner on the guard. And there's just a lot of things that go into it there. And so so those are the 2 snaps. They're just mirror images of each other, and they show the fun that Spags can have with those 2 guys. It also helps. Karlaftis does really well on stunts because they don't require the bend, and they take advantage of his athleticism and motor. And he's also got good power. Same with Dana. They've got guys with above average power who are their edges. The thing that sets apart Omenihu is a throwaway that he forced along with Chris Jones, where he's rushing. This time it was Jones from the left defensive end. Omenihu was left defensive tackle, and he ended up one-on-one against the center because the guard kind of basically started out like he was going to help the center. It was like, oh, that's Chris Jones over there? Okay.
4 hands. 4 hands.
Yeah. Get 4 hands on that man.
4 hands.
And Jones won to the outside anyway. It was hilarious. And Omenihu very quickly beat the center. You'd call it just a pure swim. Basically, he was able to get just a little bit of distance and just discard him and swim over the top. Great bounce through contact, good length, really terrific power, and was on Justin Herbert immediately, and he had nowhere to run. That's the thing that separates Omenihu from, I think, Karlaftis and Dana is he's a little more able to win one-on-one matchups, especially from the interior. But on the edges, I think he's pretty much the same as those two guys. He's okay. He's a guy. But on the interior, he's a dude. And so you combine those things, and now all of a sudden, if you've got two dudes, you don't know. Are the Chiefs going to run straight up? Are they just going to rush straight right after you? Are they going to run games? Because as an offensive line, if you are ready for the games and the stunts and the twists and all that stuff, then you can play them just fine. But if you've got to prepare, because it's two very different actions, trying to get four hands on someone when you don't know, is he actually rushing or is this man a decoy? So that's what I really enjoyed watching about it, was seeing the versatility there and adding another guy who can play all over.
Nate, what did you see? What made him worth writing about for you? And then also, we've now heard Spags talk about it a little more today too.
Yeah, it's just the idea that like this was their ideal defense, right? It's wild that it takes 7 games, but the reason they hired, or the reason why they acquired Charles Omenihu was to be next to Chris Jones, and you're only going to see that more as the season goes along. You know, if they both stay healthy, I think this will be a fun sort of experimental game for the Chiefs defensive line before the actual test in Germany, because if you can't get pressure on Tua Tagovailoa and he's going to get the ball out in time, God bless your secondary. And the Eagles pretty much showed that obviously last Sunday night. So it's good that they got an offensive line that was a little bit banged up, but you should take advantage of, and they passed the first test. Now for Charles Omenihu and Chris Jones, it's, hey, Charles is the new variable in this 2-game matchup where you're playing the same team twice in the same month, which is stupid. But also now he's pretty much given them what they initially thought. And it's just another example of the coaching staff, Steve Spagnuolo and his staff, and Brett Veach in the front office, really understanding that they went out and they got 3 rotational, serviceable, scheme-specific players in Charles Omenihu, Drew Tranquill, and Mike Edwards, and they've all hit. And if Charles Omenihu hits the way that Tranquill and Edwards have hit so far, now you have one of the best defenses in the league. So that was kind of what I wanted to get out of. My story was not only just what he did during the suspension, how much the suspension weighed heavily on him just mentally, just because, you know, kind of similar to Willie Gay, although he didn't give the same amount of perspective, or he wasn't as he didn't give as many details as
like
Willie.
Introspective, maybe.
Yeah. Too many words. Thank you, professional broadcaster Joshua Brisco over here. With
Nice to hear that once.
2 weasels in the other boxes. All I'm trying to say is that he didn't give as much introspection as what, say, Willie Gay did. And I've said before, and I've said it again, Willie Gay at every turn has told you, yep, what I did was stupid, and I've learned from it, and now, I want to do as best as I can as a human, not even relating to football. But in essence, you could kind of get the sense that not only did Willie Gay sort of advise him and be alongside Charles Omenihu throughout his suspension, but just when you're not working, when you know why you're not working, when you know that you're supposed to be counted on, and it's a new team, and it's a divisional game, and the guys have played good without you. So demonstrate your value immediately upon returning. It weighs a lot on you mentally. So for him to share that he went from one of the more depressing parts of his adult life to one of the most thrilling days of his adult life, getting back on the field and sort of reestablishing who he is as a player in a new in a new defense with a new team, playing alongside what he called a Hall of Famer, which I thought to be really interesting. Oh, Charles Omenihu, you think that man should be in the Hall of Fame? Have you heard of Seth Keysor? And do you guys want to start the 2-man committee to get this man not just at the Chiefs Ring of Honor, but to Canton, Ohio? Can I introduce you to Seth Keysor?
Also, do you have any feelings on Jamal Charles? Just while we're at it,
you guys went to the same university.
Same first name.
I mean, you guys.
Well, Seth. No. not the same first name.
Name.
Sort of.
Again, we are just
Sort
The
of.
fun name
over
game thing
here.
is there.
Yeah.
Jamal Charles Omenihu is right there for the taking. Yeah.
Yes, but you know, he did say that Chris Jones is a Hall of Famer, and I was like,
Yeah. Oh,
I'm sorry, we need to have a sit down conversation. Let's
let
really go through it.
One thing to note with Charles Omenihu from being there live Sunday, other than maybe McCole Hardman, no one was having more fun than Charles Omenihu. Like before the game, when they were like, you know, warming up, they're doing their stuff, he was like running up towards the crowd and like and the crowd was obliging because it's Arrowhead. Arrowhead, just on a side note, for a just kind of run-of-the-mill October, like it's a divisional game. It's not like it was the Raiders or the Broncos, though. Arrowhead was like ready to explode the moment that game began. It was just really interesting. Just very Arrowhead's always great, but it was like, I don't know, there was more energy than normal there, and Omenihu seemed just thrilled about the whole thing.
It makes sense. I mean, he and McCole Hardman had both been banished out of professional football for 6 weeks, so I'd imagine they'd both be pretty excited. Hey, speaking of guys who have had questionable forms and how they fit into this offense and everything, Nate, you mentioned something in the group text earlier today that I had not considered and that you wanted to bring up that I think is a really interesting one. We are rapidly approaching, I think you said tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary of the Kadarius Toney trade.
Yeah, baby.
Oh yeah, I read
A
that.
year with the Kansas City Chiefs for Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
What did you want to look back on there? Why did that spark up for you?
Well, Josh, I'm so glad you asked. To try to be the professional writer that I am, me and my gal, Charlotte Carroll, covers the Giants for The Athletic. We evaluate the trade. It's one of my favorite things that I've done this season is to chat with Charlotte every week. How they doing? What do you think of Kadarius? She's like, he got hurt again? And I was like, yeah, it's the first day of training camp. So
like before day one, kind of.
yeah, I mean, like they haven't even ran around Charlotte. So me and Charlotte have had a lot of fun with it. It's an evaluation where I feel like, and we both kind of landed on this. How do you evaluate this trade a year later says a lot about you as a football observer, as an evaluator, as someone who's watched both teams. I think the Giants technically got the better. And it's not even technically. The Giants got the better player because that trade eventually led to them getting Darren Waller. Yeah. But did the Chiefs win the trade, fellas? That was the thing that's percolating in all of this, which I hope when Chiefs fans and Giants fans come together in the comments, that I'm sure it'll be civil as to who won the actual trade. Who won the trade, guys?
I mean, it's gotta be the Chiefs because this is the same analysis that I gave when talking about McCole Hardman. They gave up. I don't know if you take into account compensatory picks. We don't need to do all that again. But like to me, like people were like, "Oh, McCole Hardman, he's not really that much better than the guys they already have in place." But if he's 1% better, 1% better in the in the individual games, that matters because in the NFL, games are won and lost on such a very narrow thread. Mm-hmm. And so, like, to me, like, McCole Hardman, hey, he converted that third down. Would one of the other guys? Maybe, but he did. And that's something he's done before. The punt return, would Toney have run that back? Maybe, but Hardman did. And so that 1% matters, and I think that's where that 1% in terms of with Kadarius Toney, when you're a Super Bowl contender, like a legit Super Bowl contender, I think that 1% matters way more. And that's where you've got to be careful not to give up too much in terms of future assets to get 1 or 2% better because you want to be a Super Bowl contender every year, and you are with Patrick Mahomes. But that's where Kadarius Toney mattered last year way more for the Chiefs than he would have for the Giants. Just like
also
McCole Hardman.
Yeah,
because it's just because those 1 or 2 plays, because suddenly when you're like in the AFC Championship game or whatever, all the aggregate statistics, they still mean something, but they don't mean nearly as much in the individual. Because then what matters is, okay, am I 1% better in this game? Because that means we win. So that's where I'd land on the Toney thing because of their situation. I think both teams won. I think the Giants
What?
got a return they're happy with.
We can't have this.
No!
No!
Both teams.
No! They can't win. They both can't win the trade. Seth, what are we doing?
I
No!
need a loser, Seth.
I
need a
multiplied
winner
the
and a
fish and the
loser.
loaves. What do you want from me? Oh my goodness.
Josh, go ahead.
I think they both won, Nate.
We cannot have this.
I definitely agree with the point that Kadarius Toney does nothing for the New York Giants. Like,
Right.
it's just basically a non-needle mover. And
Yep.
I think that Darren Waller, as a guy like you're building part of your offense around, for better or for worse, I think does change what the Giants wanted to do.
Right.
My extra question would be, hey, would you trade Kadarius Toney for Darren Waller if you're the Chiefs? I think the answer to that might also be yes.
Yes.
So-
yes. And that is what we've learned over the last year is that the Chiefs won the trade, but they also haven't won the trade
Yeah.
because he was supposed to be wide receiver 1, and
Right.
we have a year of evidence that is actually Rashee Rice.
Right.
Full
Yeah.
stop.
That is a little bit. I would say that there's a world in which Kadarius Toney has contributed to a Super Bowl in a genuine way,
Mhm.
and a way when he has disappointed to some extent so far this season, and a world in which he's not done yet, and a world in which I would give up on the experiment to have Darren Waller be tight end 2 on this offense. Like I think all of those things could reasonably be true, and they're probably both pretty happy with where it landed.
That's Nate had an aneurysm. No, I am a hopefully professional award-winning writer, reporter, and maybe entertainer. Maybe put that on the last comma.
I think it belongs.
The funny thing is, yes, it is wild to say that Rice is the number 1 receiver right now, but that's any measurement, any statistical data, our own eyes tell us that, like, in a roundabout way,
Yes.
like, Kadarius Toney is kind of who he is, but maybe you give Rick Boakholder credit, because guess what, kids? For the first time in Kadarius Toney's career, he's been in every game.
And he
what-
ran a slant.
and got open
I was like, whoa.
and caught it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I think must eat away at Giants fans. It's not the Super Bowl. No, it couldn't be the Super Bowl.
I mean, I feel like it's probably that a little bit.
Well, he actually helped the divisional rival not win the Super Bowl. It's the idea that he loves being a part of the Chiefs, and I'll suit up every game for these mother bleepers, but I never did that for y'all. Even though you all knew I was talented, and you gave a first round pickup for me, and you only got a compensatory third. And what I'm doing right now
I love this bit.
is just, I don't know if it's a Jedi mind trick thing, but like, you all both know I would have never played 7 out of 7 games if I was in y'all's uniform. But since I got Pat Mahomes, I'm going to be out here on a recently surgically repaired knee and a sprained toe and whatever god effing thing this sport does to your body. I'll be out there every freaking
No
week.
Deshaun Watsoning for Kadarius Toney in
Nope.
Kansas City.
Nope. Hey.
In the injury sense, and
Any
hopefully
sense.
literally
Any
every
sense.
other sense.
Any
Deshaun, what Deshaun Watson?
Oh, I did this, and this is on me.
This is your fault, Seth.
What Deshaun Watson?
If I turn off my camera, does it just
Daniel
screw everything
Jones
up, Tucker?
Let me just speak truth to the audience. What Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones told each and every one of us is, have y'all seen that offensive line? Hell no. I need another week off.
I forgot. Yeah,
Hell no.
Daniel
Not
Jones.
gonna do it.
Daniel Jones is watching Rod Taylor take a grown man's job. Which, by the way, how is it 2023? And I know we're on an hour and 9
Man, it's an
minutes.
hour and 10 minutes. We haven't talked about the Broncos once yet, man.
Chiefs 30, Broncos 17.
Chiefs. You know what? Hold on, let me think. Well,
My question was
Butker-
going to be, can I talk you into this being a trap game? You had a more interesting divisional game last week. You're about to get ready to go to Germany. You got to get all your ducks in a row to go travel internationally. Miami Dolphins, big game. Then you get your bye week. And then after that, it's the Eagles. You just trounced this team 2 weeks ago. They're the Broncos. They stink. This is a textbook trap game. 34-17. Nah, 27-9.
Are we sure Butker's
27-10.
I think. Are we sure Butker's going to be good? Well, no, because they'll just kick extra points with Reed.
And Tobe said he's expecting him back.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going. Let me think. Hold on. 20, 30. I'm going. Someone already said 34, didn't they?
I'm saying 27-10 officially.
I'm going 36.
Wow.
Yeah.
20, and that 36 is 2 field goals and a safety.
If you're the Broncos, you have no desire to win this game. You should have no desire to win. Honestly, you shouldn't play Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton or Patrick Surtain.
Because send Jerry Jeudy to Kansas City for a 5th round pick and call it a day.
Because someone told me the trade deadline is next week. So
send Kansas City Hollywood Brown for a 5th round pick and call it a day.
Are you
and
guys
pay his whole contract?
Are you guys 2-5? Are you trying to win?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and if so, why?
Why? That's the real question. Because yes, they're professionals. I know they want to win. We're all competitive as humans, but also,
You know, Sean Payton's out here thinking, if we stink and I'm in a position to draft one of these very good quarterbacks in this draft, I can punt on Wilson and blame Wilson for everything, and everyone will still like me.
And the Walmarts will pay for it. I don't even call them the Waltons anymore. The Walmarts will pay for it. The Walmarts will say, that's why we hired you. We gave it a year. It was cool. Do you see how many Walmarts we got? I don't care about cap hits. Dead cap dead cap these Walmarts all over the streets. Okay? Get out of here. Also, it's not a trap game because they've won 16 in a row. It's just not.
I think it would be a trap game if I had less belief in the team's head coach and quarterback and their specific desire to not let that streak in because they were thinking about Germany.
Well, and here's the deal. If they win, I need to pull this up really quick. NFL standings. Hold on.
Yep.
Here we go. All right. So now, you've got the Dolphins and the Ravens and the Jags at 5. The Jags are 5-2.
I know, dude. If the Chiefs would have lost that game, the Jags would be the 1 seed in the AFC right now.
The Jags are legitimately good.
Yeah, the Jags-Lions game. Like, when you look back at the Chiefs' schedule, I was like, this has not been an easy schedule.
Every game this year looks better.
The only reason they lost to the NFC North leading Detroit Lions, who are 5-2 and look really good, is because they didn't have their two of their 3 best players, and Kadarius Toney threw the ball at the other team. Football! Here! Do you want this?
Did the Chiefs win the
because
trade?
The Chiefs lost the trade.
Did the Chiefs win the trade? Obviously, this is all somewhat tongue-in-cheek. But look, all I'm going to say is, if Sean Payton is petty to take Keandre Coburn, let me just scoop you up off waivers because Frank Clark doesn't want to be here.
Oh yeah. Also, Frank Clark is home, back with his old team, like everyone predicted, like we talked about. Frank Clark has returned to the old stomping grounds. And so he's with the Seattle Seahawks.
Frank, I needed the quotes, baby. I needed the quotes. I needed elite content from you.
Go get that elite content in Seattle.
Shout out to my guy Michael Sean Dugard.
He's gonna have a great. Oh, he's gonna do a great.
He's gonna have amazing quotes.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna have amazing quotes.
Oh, that's great.
Because they also too might win the division. All I'm saying is, if Sean Payton's petty enough to say, "Let me take Keandre Coburn," hell, we didn't even look at him in the draft. Who cares? Bring him to me, because I'm so upset with Andy Reid and the Chiefs and the idea that we can't beat them. Has anyone acknowledged that Patrick Mahomes has done ads for the Walmarts?
Whoa!
And the Walmarts allowed this to happen?
Whoa!
They didn't hire their own quarterback.
How did you?
Hey, this is business. This is business. I don't care if you're my kid. Who's this better person?
Can he help us make more money to continue to beat us? Oh my God, Galaxy Raid! Why did we do this? Why? Why did we hire Patrick Mahomes when he already has Hy-Vee, a competitor? Why? Why did we do this? We're the Walmarts. We'll just pay for anything.
Like picturing them marching around at their gigantic Lake Cabin estates. We're the Walmarts. We're the Walmarts. Like, I just can't even, like, did you come against the Walmarts?
Guys, it's like a $60 million dead cap hit, and they won't need it.
So funny.
Because they're the Walmarts. It's amazing.
Hey, Nate wrote a story in The Athletic about Patrick Mahomes playing safety. Y'all should go read it. We weren't going to really talk about it today anyway, because it's a lot. Nate, it's a lot of words, man. It's a lot of words, and we don't have to have Seth break down the film review live on the show.
Oh, I wish you did, though.
That would actually be excellent. If you would like to go through, much like Justin Reed, I have a lot of questions about how this story came together, Nate, that you can answer either off air or next week, because we've got an hour 15, and I'm worried about Tucker. So
thank you.
You've got our predictions. Go read Nate's story up on The Athletic about Patrick Mahomes' brief sojourn on the defensive side of the football. It's excellent. And Seth's got film reviews, both about the Chiefs' balance and Omenihu, and both of them are going to have stuff coming out the rest of the week leading up to Chiefs Broncos as well. So that's all of the things that we needed to hit. I think we'll be back on Monday. I'll let you each give a chance to either plug something that you're doing or get us out of here. Seth, you go first, though, because Nate gets the last word, so you got to go first now.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay, man. No, it's all right.
I don't know.
I'll
probably write about... I'll probably write about something related to how the Chiefs play on Sunday.
Hey. And
there's definitely one weasel on this show, Nate. You definitely got that for sure. You're not charting Mahomes' snaps this week, Seth? You didn't want to plug that?
Oh, crud. Yeah, I'll probably do that.
Jackass.
Just an unmitigated jackass. Lastly, kids, remember.
Why do I know your you don't tell me. I just know you do it every week, so I know your publishing schedule because I want people to go to mnchiefsfan.com/substack.com or to bit.ly/Seth really hates money, a URL I made to get a direct link to Seth's great deals for the Substack because I want you to have a successful Substack, Seth. That's all. I just want you to be successful and to be a happy person. And I'm like, hey, Seth, can we plug this thing that you're writing so you can continue to make a little more money, $12 per year at a time? And you say, no, thank you. I'm not interested. By the way, I think the one about team balance is unlocked for everybody at Substack.
I did do that. Thank you for telling people that. It's not that I'm not interested in that. It's just that I wasn't listening.
Okay. And lastly, kids, never forget in the sports media content era we're living in, there cannot be a trade where both teams win. There must not be a trade where both teams win. This is how you make media content. Who is the winner? Who's the loser? No one. No. Don't even think of the idea of a 3-team trade where all 3 teams get what they want. That's absurd. Why would they agree to it? Someone has to lose.
This communist Russia.
I feel like